to be able to have you on, man. I think, you know, you were you put it all together. The ECC Alternative League 7-on-7, you're the first league to my knowledge to be able to put this together in Connecticut. And I just want to say, I commend you for being able to kind of put this together, both you and a part of the ECC athletic departments.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. And, it's been a collaborative effort, a lot of great support from our league football coaches. They believe in this model, in terms of the opportunity that it's going to give our student athletes at this point in time, within the situation that we've been given, at this point in time. So we're going to make the best of it. We're going to allow our kids an opportunity to compete, on a week-to-week basis and continue to develop their skill set in the sport of football.
Take me kind of into the background as far as, because with anything, it always starts off as an idea. And I think with this league, I almost feel like when the second pause happened is when ideas started floating around. Okay, 11 on 11 possibly will not happen, even before DPH and the CIAC kind of laid down the hammer. What was it, last Wednesday or so? So for you and the rest of the team, when did this idea really start to kind of transpire?
It was initially over Labor Day weekend. On the 4th of September, that's when the first cancellation came out from CIAC in regards to 11 on 11 tackle football. And so that weekend, just kind of brainstormed and thought about some things that we could do with our student athletes, within our program, try to keep them engaged, make sure that they're under the guidance of our coaching staff. That's who we want our kids with, on a day-to-day basis. And, just talked about some ways that we could get them into a competitive setting, at the end of each week. There has to be a carrot, so to speak, for the kids, at the end of each week, if we're going to ask them to stay involved within the program. So initially, I just threw some ideas off some of my my fellow ADs within the conference. They thought it was a really good idea and liked some of the things that I was throwing out there. I then reached out to some veteran coaches in the league, guys that I coached against when I was coaching football here at Ledyard. And we had some good discussions in terms of how it would look and what we would want it to look like. And, just started planning from there. So it's been a constant, transition and progression, so to speak, from that Friday afternoon when, the initial news came out that 11v11 was not going to take place this year, or this fall anyway, within the state of Connecticut.
Hearing you say that you were talking and kind of going to different sides, like you kind of were not sticking to just, all right, here's my point and this is how it's going to work. You were kind of going off trying to get different perspectives from, like you said, other ADs, other coaches. And I almost feel like that's kind of the right way to go, because if you go into a room thinking you're the smartest person, there's always going to be somebody who's smarter. So I think kind of going into that and being able to hear different perspectives, different ideas, that can kind of help make what could be a good idea a great idea, because maybe there's something that you didn't think of that another person does. And this is where we are now with the Alternative League in the ECC.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In order to get the full buy-in, you have to get everybody to play a part in the process of building, the idea. And I think that was important, and to me, it was getting, the correct athletic directors involved, that I needed to get the full buy-in from the group. And then, of course, the football coaches within the league, and making sure that they had a say in terms of how we built this and what the script looked like, for each Friday night. And so I think that was the key, because once we got some of the initial folks involved and they felt they had a say in the process of building this alternative league, it really took off from there. The following Thursday night, I met via Google Meet with all of the ECC football coaches. We talked about the plan, that we put together, from that Friday up to that Thursday. Threw around some more ideas. Some of the coaches that I did not talk to had an opportunity to, weigh in. And, I think just being able to process it all and talk it through, what turned into, I think for everybody has been a somber, last couple weeks to, you know what, we're going to take this thing, we're going to run with it. We're going to make it as fun and as exciting as we possibly can, for our student athletes. We're going to give our kids a chance to compete, and try to, show some resemblance of normalcy. One of the biggest things I stressed to the coaches when I opened up the meeting that night was I wanted, them to understand the importance that they play in the everyday lives of their student athletes. To me, this was more than just about football. It was about the presence that they have every day in the lives of the players that are in their program. And, speaking for my coach and for my kids, there's no other place that I'd rather have my football players be than here every day with the coaching staff that I hired. That's who I want them with. Unfortunately, 11 on 11 was taken away from us for the time being. But let's try to do something else that we can provide them so that they can remain competitive. You can continue to teach them, coach them up, develop their football skill set, and we'll do it in a way that's safe in low to moderate risk activities so that we can move forward. I don't want to lose kids. I didn't want kids to walk away from our program. This is a very important time, in the educational process as kids are returning to school after, 6 months off. We need something, to engage them besides the educational piece. And typically when you're talking about 40 to 50 to 60 football players, there's not really a lot of other fall opportunities that are drawing for them. So if it's football, it's nothing. So we wanted to make sure that we could do what we could make with the football piece in terms of rules and regulations and roll with it. And I think, the coaches understood that it's bigger than just 11v11 right now. It's about their presence in the everyday lives of their student athletes. And to me, I think that kind of sold them and got them, into the initial buy-in. And then they realized, this could be a little bit fun for us too, and get a chance to get out there and compete.
That's something that the NFA head coach, Coach B, kind of really stressed to me when I had a panel. I had him, I had the head coach from Guilford and the head coach from Waterbury Career Academy. And he sounded like a president, I'll tell you that much, because the way he was presenting his energy, he was saying, it doesn't matter if it's 11 on 11. I mean, he just wanted to be on the field and he just wanted to be around the players because he stressed how much, like you said, being, this is an important, 4 years, 3 years, however long the players within the program, just because trying to be able to be mentors, dealing with what is, the pandemic right now, a lot has been lost. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of sadness. And I think being able to keep the group together and kind of allow the coaches to be the mentors, to be the father figures, to be the people that these players need help and to keep them on the right path, even away from football, just to be good human beings. I think that's probably the main part. And I think by you being able to get this league together, yes, it allows them to play. That's fantastic. But it also keeps these players, like you said, it keeps them within the program and doesn't have them scatter and go off and do mischief things. You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right. And I think Coach Bakulis, he's a tremendous representative, of our league. I love the way, he runs his program. I love the way, he brings the juice every single day. He's a great individual to be around, and he's a great mentor. And that's a perfect example in terms of the type of leaders we have, in the Eastern Connecticut Conference, in the sport of football. My coach here at Ledyard, Coach Saricchio, very similar, and that's who I want my guys around, and that's who I want them to be around on a day-to-day basis. So if 11v11 is taken away, I need to come up with a way that I can sell my school community to support so that my kids can stay with Coach Saricchio and his staff this fall, continue to develop in the skill set of football and find a way to compete. And to me, that was the ultimate goal as I started, to think about ways to provide an opportunity, not just for the kids at Ledyard. That's kind of where it started. What can I do for my kids at Ledyard? And then it expanded to, let's make this a whole league-wide, alternative, so to speak, and let's roll with it.
Was it difficult at all to sell after everything was kind of put together and the plan was set? Was it hard to sell to the rest of the committee, rest of the party, or was everybody kind of on the same page where everybody had their input, kind of had their say, and everybody kind of understood what was going on?
Yeah, at the AD level, we have a really good supportive group of athletic directors. We're a large league, 19 schools, but 14, football playing schools out of that initial group of 19. And as athletic directors, we all have our sport or sports that we chair, and we trust, the individuals to do the job that's needed and to run that sport accordingly. So when I floated the idea out, it was met with pretty good support, at the AD level. For me, initially at the football coach level, I went to Coach Bakulis, I went to Coach Mike Ellis at Fitch, Chad Neal at Killingly. I talked to Mike, Saricchio, my coach. I wanted to get some initial folks on board, from that football piece that I knew, when I got into that meeting room, they would be supportive of this endeavor and that, the full group would be on board. And that's certainly how this whole thing, took off. So, getting that buy-in from the coaches was critical. And I think, when you look at, the opportunities we're going to provide, student athletes, certainly you can say that, some of these activities are activities that, I've heard, well, you do that in the summer in preparation for football. And you're absolutely right. You do that in the summer in preparation for football. But right now we're still preparing for football. And we've taken the lineman challenge, I think, to another level, from your typical summer lineman challenge activities. It's very, very position specific on the offensive and defensive lines. And so I think, that gives great opportunities for coaches to coach skill and technique and have kids compete within those particular skills and techniques. It's not just lifting weight or moving weight. We're actually doing football specific drills. And on the skill side of it, we've expanded your traditional, 7v7, and that's why we're not calling it 7-on-7. We're playing on a 100-yard field. We're playing, with specialists involved. We're kicking off to start games. We're kicking off after touchdowns. Teams have the option to kick PATs or field goals. You're punting on fourth down or you're going for it. We're going to have a chain game. We're going to have the lights on. We're going to have board certified officials. We're going to try to make it as realistic as we possibly can. There just won't be 11-on-11 tackle football being played. But we want to try to put the student athletes in a position so that, if we're fortunate enough to play football, this academic school year and the way that, football is intended to be played, this 5 to 6 week period is going to pay dividends for them in terms of the preparation, the coaching, the relationships that were built, before we get to that, hopeful 11v11 season.
Let's dive into the league a little bit because I find a lot of what's in it very fascinating in a good way. And I think that just looking at first for the people who may not know, there are 5 games that are going to be played. September 25th, which, today's the 22nd. It's only a couple days away. On Friday will be kickoff for the ECC. Then you have October 2nd, the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd. And then you also have on the 30th and the 31st, the class of 21 and 22 will be having a showcase. And I think that's the part that I really kind of got me because I'm a baseball guy through and through. And I've, been around the showcase circuit for baseball for years. And being able to see it for football, and I hope I can go and I'll try my best to make it. I find that to be very fascinating because I almost feel like because of just reading how the plan is in place for the league, I can only imagine how the showcase is going to be, especially if you're the only game in town. There's going to be a lot of attraction. Now, yes, social distancing, everybody, will be 6 feet apart, but I think there's a lot to really kind of buy in to that showcase.
So our showcase, we've firmed the date up. It's going to be that Saturday, October 31st. Phil Orby, the athletic director at New London, has been gracious enough to allow us to utilize his facility. They have 2 synthetic turf fields. Registration has already started. Jason Bakulis from NFA is going to kind of head that for me. He's already got the Google Doc rolling. Juniors and seniors, current juniors and seniors are signing up now, through Google in terms of, getting a spot in the combine for that Saturday. We've already reached out to 40 plus college coaches, many who have indicated they would be able to attend that Saturday morning, mid-afternoon session. We'll have to spread it out according to the number of participants we have, certainly to meet social distancing requirements. But we've had a large number, inquire already about attending, and then certainly many have expressed interest in getting the opportunity to get the film of those student athletes. So we're going to do some of your typical, combine drills, but I also believe that, what's going to be of most importance is the coaches being able to take their student athletes through position-specific drill work that we can get on film, that we can send out to coaches. And to me, that's going to be the culmination of this entire alternative fall season. So we took a negative and turned it into a positive as best as we could. To me, that was the most important piece of, we were dealt a blow. Kids were upset, coaches were upset. As athletic directors and administrators, we were upset. But, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit around and sulk, or are you going to, try to find a solution, to the problem and move forward with it? And that's exactly what we decided to do. And I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a productive fall for these football student athletes. Like I said, the worst thing that can happen is that our student athletes are getting coached on a daily basis by their certified high school football coaches, and they're going to get coached up and taught the proper way to play football over the next 5 to 6 weeks. If that's the worst thing that happens, we're going to be okay.
I think being so concise with this plan and being able to put it together and being able to, present it in such a way where, all parties from the ADs to the superintendents are able to agree upon it. And like you mentioned about having, you can face something and either just keep complaining about it and keep trying to just repeat. Because I tweeted this out maybe like a month ago, where if you think that something's going to change, even though the answer is still no after 4 times, you're kind of borderline insane. So instead of continue on doing it, why don't you try to change it up, create a solution, which is what you guys did. And I understand that in other leagues, it's a little bit more difficult because of superintendents or because COVID cases are on the rise, et cetera. I understand that. But for right now, you are the AD. You can deal with what's going on in the conference. The conference and the schools and teams and everything, cases are down, things are okay for right now. So I think by you being able to create this and being able to put this forward, it really, in my opinion, kind of paves the way, hopefully, for maybe if another league can come about in the coming, week or two. I mean, you never know.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think the key for us was we got started early. One of the first things I did over that Labor Day weekend was when I finally was able to put the plan down in writing, I emailed the ADs and I said, listen, get this to your principal and your super now. I said, because it's eventually going to be down, to the wire where it'll be our decision. It's not going to be a sanctioned event. It's going to be a school event. And we want our kids to stay with our coaches. We want the program to stay under our umbrella. We want it to be ours. So start talking to your principal, start talking to your super, make sure you get them on board, because when this happens, it's going to happen quick. I want to get this thing rolling. I don't want to wait to, mid-October to start competing, because we're going to lose kids. We were already to a point of, we had to get something going because kids were getting, there's only so many days in a row you can run 60-minute, conditioning workouts. You have to start giving them something that they can do that's going to, get their competitive juices flowing. So I think that was key. My superintendent, Jay Hartling's been awesome. From the get-go, he said, hey, listen, I trust you. Be creative, find something that's going to engage the kids, and, let's roll with it. We are in a good spot in our part of the state. We, knock on wood, we are doing well. And so, we have the ability to do this and to get together, on Friday nights and compete. So, with that said, which was one of the reasons why I wanted to get this thing rolling so quickly, let's take advantage of it while we can, and let's play as many, contests as we can get in, before the month of October, runs out on us. And it's funny you mentioned, I talked to a superintendent today from another area of the state. He called this morning to ask a little bit about this particular plan, which I certainly shared with him, verbally, and also sent him via email so that, he could bring back to his league, because he read about it in the newspaper and was intrigued and thought maybe it would be something his league would like to look at. So you're absolutely right. This may take off. If it does, great. If not, that really wasn't what it was intended to do. It was really just, intended to meet the needs of our student athletes, at Ledyard High School and the ECC. But the more the merrier. I just want to see kids, getting an opportunity to compete, in a safe, structured, organized manner, with their high school football coaches, because we don't want to lose that. If we lose that, it's going to be very difficult to get back. High school football is unique. And although we're not playing 11-on-11 tackle football right now, I do firmly believe we'll play again soon. And, for the time being, let's take advantage of what we do have the opportunity to do. And that's been our motto, trying to turn this negative into a positive.
I kind of equate what could potentially happen. I know that, I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea what's going to happen next week, if not next year. If I did, I would figure out how to find a cure for COVID so we can all get rid of this crap. You know what I mean? But I think looking at kind of this league, because we know high school football will be back at some point. High school football will be here. I don't know when, but it will be back hopefully soon. But the point I'm trying to make is I kind of equate it to the XFL. Before it was shut down because of COVID, there was a lot of really good ideas that the NFL kind of took from that. And now they've implemented that into their own game. So I guess what I'm trying to, make the point to you is there could be some ideas from this league that you could implement in a regular, a normal high school football season. Am I wrong?
I think some of the social distancing pieces, some of those things might come into play. I'm not sure if we'll ever move away from some of the safety and health policies we've put into place over the last six months. Some people indicate, we may wear masks for, quite the time, moving forward, even when a vaccine does come back into play. But, I love football the way it is. I wouldn't change a thing. But you never say never, certainly. But at this point in time, the changes, the mitigations that we had to put in place, in order to move this to a low to moderate risk activity for us to compete with, we were going to do whatever we had to do, to get our kids a chance to go out on a Friday night and compete under the lights. And yeah, even though they're not going to have equipment on and we're not going to be tackling, it's still the camaraderie, the opportunity to run out on the field with your brothers and have those relationships with your coaches and teammates. That's what high school football, is built upon. And so we're not going to lose some of those things. And we're going to keep our hope that, we can play 11v11 sometime, in the near future.
I should clarify that I wasn't saying that 7-on-7 will be the new wave in football. I don't want to see that. I don't think anybody wants to. I guess the point I was trying to make was, like you mentioned, the social distancing as far as maybe kind of almost being a platform, because like you said, there may be some things that may have to be the norms for a little bit, because who knows how long this virus will be here or when the vaccine will be effective. But at some point we do have to move on. Like we both been talking about, there has to be solutions. So if we do want to play high school sports at an effective level and help these kids, help the young men and women, well, let's try to do things. Oh, the ECC, they were really good at making sure during their alternative league, the social distancing, making sure everybody had masks. I mean, there's so many things. I think that's what I was trying to say. Take those pieces, implement that into a normal, quote unquote, season, so that way we can continue to move forward.
No, that's a great point. I think one of the biggest things that was popping in my mind when you mentioned that again was the handshake line. I think, nobody's going to be upset to see that handshake line end at the end of a game, to be honest. The good game, good game, good game, good game, right down the line. You don't even know who the heck you're saying good game to. I think, those days may be over. Little things like that we might see, disappear from athletics in general. But yeah, we're hoping that this, can fulfill the void, that's been presented to us. That was the initial goal, and we're excited to get rolling this week. I thought that, that was the way to go, and our league's very appreciative. The coaches are appreciative. I think parents are, appreciative, and the kids are just excited to get out and do something, that's competitive and maybe against somebody else than just their teammates right now.
Now, some of the rules that I saw, now the quarterback will have 4 seconds to throw the football. Now, why is 4 seconds the magical number, and what happens if they don't release the football in 4 seconds?
Yeah, great question. So it'll be a loss of down. The official will be, counting. We'll have 3 officials, from our local board, one a white hat that will be, by the quarterback. He'll be counting. And then 2 on each sideline. They'll be looking downfield, pass interference calls. But we thought 4 seconds was about, the average time of a drop by the quarterback, and to get rid of the football in a fair amount of time, for both the offense and defensive sides. But yes, if the quarterback doesn't get rid of the ball within 4 seconds, it would equate to a sack. We move on to the next down.
And now the periods as well, as far as each quarter, kind of take me into the time that you selected as far as for each quarter.
Yeah, we put that out as a recommended time. When we started with 25 minutes, because in talking to some of the schools, they were going to only send 1 unit per week to play. So in our league, we had already set some policies in that as we prepared for the athletic season and to play football as football's meant to be played, we had set the cap at 40, a 40-man roster or a 40-person roster, for the sport of football. So when we went to this alternative, we said we were going to stay with our initial league policies for football. So in talking to some of the ADs, they were like, well, we're just going to have 1 game a week. So I'm going to have about 36 to 40 kids. I want to try to make sure everybody gets an equal amount of time. So we came to the conclusion that, 25-minute running time, you're going to play your 1s, you're going to play your 2s. They're going to get plenty of reps. And then you got your lineman down on the lineman challenge. We're good. Some of our larger schools, and I'll give you an example, Fitch and NFA this week, they're playing a varsity and a sub-varsity contest. So they don't really need 25-minute periods. So they're going to reduce their periods to 15-minute periods. They're going to incorporate some lineman challenges in between each period so that there's an opportunity to compete under the lights for those linemen, as well as holding that alternative lineman challenge as well. So, you're kind of taking the script and, working it around what's best for you and your program. So they don't need the full 25. They're going to reduce it, and they're going to have a JV contest the next day. So there's a lot of those things that are going on depending upon the size of the program and the number of contests that you're looking to get for your program on a week-to-week level. So we really didn't change that concept of scheduling. So if I scheduled you, an opponent for Friday night, that's your same opponent for Saturday morning junior varsity if you choose to play a junior varsity game. So looking at our 13, schools that are in the league, there's probably about a half a dozen that'll do JV and varsity. The other half dozen or so are just going to play that varsity contest and look to get all their players reps during that varsity contest time period.
Now, when you were scheduling the teams as far as matching them up, did you make sure that you put the big school against the big schools only because, like you mentioned, making sure that the players have, all the time, both from the number 1 kid on the roster to the last kid on the roster? Because I almost feel like it'd be a little bit awkward if you have a big time school facing a little school and the big time school wants to have a JV game, and the other school's like, we can only have a varsity. That's all we can do.
No, that's a great question, and you're absolutely right. That's exactly how I looked at doing the scheduling. We started out, in terms of school size, by our enrollment numbers and typical football program numbers on a year-to-year basis, and I tried to make sure that those first 2 weeks we were matched up by our enrollment numbers. For the first two contests, then I made sure that we got our traditional rivalry game in. For example, Fitch and Ledyard, that's going to happen. East Lyme, Waterford. We wanted to make sure we got that semi-early too, just in case, we don't make it to week 4 or 5 for whatever reason, knock on wood again. We got that chance to have that Thanksgiving Day, rivalry game in. And then, we just looked for matchups at that point after that were close in proximity, where the travel wouldn't be anything more than, 20 minutes or so for the school. So I tried to take all of that into consideration, but your first piece was the most important consideration, and that was matching up programs where they can maximize opportunities for their kids. If I gave NFA, 5 contests with 5 schools that were only going to compete at one level, that wouldn't be fair to NFA. It would be kind of silly. I wanted to make sure they got everybody that told me they were going to compete at the JV and varsity level, so that, they got a chance to maximize their reps, at the JV and varsity level.
Another piece I saw for the linemen. Now, clarify this for me. I saw where it had linemen and then 3rd down 5 yards or less, or 4th down 2 yards or less. Is that when the lineman can come on the field for a run play, or tell me about that? I was intrigued.
Yes, that was a Coach Bakulis idea, and I was very intrigued by it. It was a way just to get the linemen involved in the actual skills competition, and make it somewhat realistic where, if it's, let's say 3rd down and 3 and you're inside the opponent's 10-yard line, many of us aren't throwing the football. We're going to run the ball. So the offensive coach at that point can say, run play, and then we send our linemen out and they perform a lineman challenge. That lineman challenge needs to be something that's pretty quick to get into. So those would be pre-scripted events, whether it's a heavy bag run, move the mountain, some type of shuttle run, something that the lineman can run out, do quickly, and then decide the outcome of that play. So if the offense's lineman won the challenge, 1st down, we continue. If the defense, wins the challenge, they stop them on downs, and possession moves the other way. So it was just an idea to get the linemen involved versus having the linemen do their challenge, then we play skills, and then it's over. We wanted a chance to try to integrate, both activities at once. And so that was just one way to do it. Some of the schools are just going to incorporate it in between each period, so the skill guys get a little bit of break, while the linemen do the challenge, on the game field in between. So there's just, there's a lot of flexibility. And I think that's the key, for the coaches to put their stamp on, how the event's going to look on Friday night. The formula that I put out was guidelines. I wanted them to take this and utilize it so that you could put something together that you want to own at your place, on Friday night. Many of them will stick to that script verbatim, and that's fine. Some will put their stamp on it and do little things like, Jason and Mike are going to do this Friday, and they shared their script with me, and I love it. I think it's great. I think their kids are going to have a blast, and I think it's going to be a competitive matchup when Fitch and NFA get together. So, that was the key. I want the coaches to own this, and that's what I told them in our meeting. This is your event when these two teams get together on your field. We're going to be there as administrators, doing what we do, but this event is yours, and I want you to own it and take pride in it, because the kids are going to follow you, and the energy and the juice that you put into it is going to transition right on down through your players. So I think the coaches have done a really great job with that in our league.
I am not shocked that Coach Bakulis came up with that idea, just because, talking with him the few times I have, he's a very kind of his thinking is stuff that not even I would think. Cerebral. That's the word I was looking for. A very cerebral thinker when it comes to the game of football. And it seems like there's always something going on in there. And going back to that, I'm not shocked he came up with that. And I think for you to be able to give the coaches kind of like what you just said, this is your baby. This is this is for you. You guys are leading the charge. You did your part. Now you're allowing the coaches to do theirs. And I think that kind of gives them that sense of confidence, like, all right, we're not being stared down by the ADs or, and such to kind of do what they think. We're going to lead this, and you give them that confidence.
Yeah, I mean, there is no, blueprint for this. This is something that's, happening for the first time. We've never had to do this before, and hopefully we'll never have to do it again. So the guidelines that I set forth were, certainly you can follow verbatim and you'll have a great night and it'll be a great competitive environment. But if you got some little things you want to add, I strongly suggested that, the coaches speak on the Monday prior to, that Friday event. Make sure you guys are both on the same page in terms of what it's going to look like when the opposing team arrives at the host site. Make sure that, the kids are prepared appropriately. We want to make sure that they understand what they're getting into, whether it's lineman challenge events or how the skill competition is going to work. And then your practice week is what your practice week is. You're coaching up your kids in the sport of football, and I'm sure you're going to do some things that prepare you for that Friday night, event. And that's kind of the process that all coaches go through, on the daily, during a typical football season. So we wanted to try to mirror that as much as possible. And I do have to shout out, a little, Springfield College love. I'm a Springfield College alum, grad assistant there as well. And Jason's a Springfield College guy, and my guy Mike here is a Springfield College guy. So we kind of all think alike. We all come from that same cloth, so to speak. So, just a little shout out to the Chiefs / pride of Springfield College.
I almost went there. Almost did. But I went to Albertus Magnus in New Haven. But, Springfield, I've been there a few times as far as just, where my broadcasting has taken me. And I'm just impressed by kind of the family atmosphere. The athletic department's huge. The fields are beautiful. The people are really nice. It's a very nice atmosphere. And I can see how it's produced so much as far as, when I was talking to Coach Saricchio, how much, talent from the coaching side has gone off to do such great things, kind of like the Bill Belichick tree, going off to do different stuff. Andy Reid as well, being able to see everybody succeed. That just, you go back to where it all starts, and it started at Springfield.
Yeah, that's where it started for me, and it was a tremendous impact on my life as a player. And then I was fortunate enough to be a graduate assistant there, and I know Jason and Mike had the same type of experiences as I did, and so we all kind of think in the same manner, in terms of the sport of football and the impact that it's had on us. And like I said, all the coaches in the ECC have been tremendous, but Jason and Mike, right off the bat, when I approached them, they were just like, absolutely, I'm in. Tell me what I need to do. They didn't hesitate. Certainly they want to play 11v11, but the fact is it's an opportunity to be around their kids and be around the sport that they love, and they know they're having an impact. And that's the most important thing, when the coaches realize the type of impact they have. And sometimes, when you're in it, you don't see it. And so I think for the coaches to hear me say that to them in the meeting and say, listen, guys, from an administrator's point of view, I see the impact that you have on these kids daily. I don't want those kids to lose it, and I don't want you to lose it. This is the only way we can continue it. We have to come up with something alternative so that we can continue to be with our kids day to day throughout this fall. And I just think that was big, and I'm so excited that they all jumped on board.
I'm excited for this league. I'm really looking forward to seeing, video and talking with coaches and such, to be able to kind of figure out, how the first week went. And then, to go back to what you said about the impact, I think the impact that this league is going to have is going to be a very positive one, especially seeing the reports that I've seen about this private league potentially with Fairfield County, how schools are not allowing their equipment to be used and that creating a whole nother dynamic. I think having this really will make a positive impact for the coaches, for the players, for the high schools, and kind of be, in my opinion, a blueprint for maybe how things could be ran, in the future.
Well, I appreciate that, Chris, and it's a school-based activity. It's part of our school culture. The kids are getting an opportunity to stay with their school certified, state certified coaching staff. To me, those are just critical pieces, of the component that we, had in mind when we put this together. And the most important piece, is that player coach relationship. And like I said, multiple times, there's no place I'd rather have my kids at than at school with their coaches. To me, if I had to weigh what we're doing versus 11 on 11 in more of a recreational AAU type setting, I'm going to pick my state certified school organized structured athletic program, any day of the week, because I know what it can offer and I know what these kids are going to get out of it. And so I'm comfortable where we're at. We got some great matchups this week. NFA is hosting Fitch, East Lyme's hosting New London, Montville's hosting Waterford, Stonington's hosting Ledyard, Bacon and Killingly are going at it, and Wyndham and Griswold. We got some great matchups to kick this off. I know the schools and kids are excited. It's not your traditional football, but guess what? It's football, and we're going to play and we're going to compete and we're going to get the most that we can out of this next 5 to 6 week period.
I really do appreciate you coming on, Jim. Like I said earlier, I wish you nothing but the best of luck, both you and the rest of the teams and the programs. I'm rooting for this league to be, a success. I think it will, just by, reading the reports and reading kind of everything that went into this and hearing your side. I think it's in good hands, and, nothing but the best of luck with this league for the next 5 weeks.
Oh, thanks, Chris. And that means a lot, and I know there's probably some people looking at us, thinking that we're crazy.
I've seen a couple tweets, but hey,
yeah.
Who cares? Those are haters. You prove them wrong by just putting the product out. Trust me.
And that's all we can do. And like I've said, we all want to be playing 11 on 11. But the fact of the matter is we can't. And so we're not going to continue to fight a fight that we can't win. We're going to move forward and create a plan that we can have success with. And this is a plan that I think is going to be very successful. And I appreciate you having me on today to talk a little bit about this. And I appreciate what you do for high school athletics, football in general. Your podcast is getting bigger and bigger each and every week. And I think what you provide for coaches and student athletes and the state of Connecticut in general is tremendous and greatly appreciated. So thank you.
I really do appreciate the words. They mean a lot. Thank you. But, at the end of the day, having you and having the coaches and the players and such kind of give them a voice, give them something to be able to speak their minds. And during this pandemic, we've all needed that. And I think being able to get them on here to kind of say their piece, that's the best part. Being able to hear their story, having the players and hear about how they started playing the sport of football or just any sport in particular. Even hearing stories about the coaches and how they kind of got into it, not every path is the same. There's always a different lane,
Yep, and that's kind of how we got to look at football this fall. This is not the path we intended, but right now it's the path that we need to take. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So, for all those, that are sitting out there, calling us crazy, you're welcome to come check us out, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think the kids are going to get better this fall. And, they'll be ready when the bell rings, for 11v11. That's going to be critical. And as I've said, most importantly, they're going to be under the supervision of our coaches. And to me, that player-coach relationship, there's nothing like it. We've all played sport before. And, the most positive, impactful people in my life have been my coaches. And so if we can give that for 6 more weeks to these kids, that's exactly what we're going to do. And to me, nothing beats that.
I'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. And remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent, and I'm on a journey to find them all. Have a good one, everybody, and be well.